A broadcast rang through the stars. The war was over. Armies disbanded. Fleets dismantled. Soldiers were paraded through streets of ash, presented like symbols of a war no one wanted to remember. Peace, they claimed, was restored. In the high chamber of the Dominion, diplomats shook limbs, drank, and toasted to unity. On Kravith Prime, generals buried war relics and praised their own restraint. The new order declared violence outdated, a relic of the past. Historians began writing the war's final chapter. Clean, absolute, victorious. No one mentioned Earth. The humans hadn't signed the treaty. They hadn't even been invited to the negotiations. 50 years earlier, during the midpoint of the war, Earth had refused to surrender. They sent no ambassadors. They offered no apology. The last message received from the Terran Confederation was simple: we do not yield. The Solari responded with orbital bombardment. Entire continents were erased. Kravith fleets swarmed Mars and Luna, expecting to find resistance. They found nothing. No defenses. No retaliation. No trace of life. The invasion reports were labeled humanity neutralized. Earth was declared extinct. That designation remained unchallenged for 5 decades. In official archives, humans were little more than a footnote. Primitive, erratic, culturally incompatible. The story was told and retold. Humanity overreached, resisted reason, and paid the price. No one questioned the silence. No one searched the ruins, until a signal emerged. It was weak, analog, buried beneath 1,000 layers of cosmic interference. A Solari long-range listening station on the edge of dead space flagged it for review. The algorithm dismissed it as solar noise, but a technician, bored and underworked, decrypted the final ping. Coordinates: an old Terran distress frequency. Origin: Vectra 7. The name stirred faded memories. Vectra 7, the site of a forgotten skirmish near the end of Earth's campaign. Officially, nothing survived. No one had visited in decades. Still, protocol demanded investigation. A scout drone was launched. It dropped from orbit silently, descending onto the barren, crater-riddled surface. Its cameras scanned blackened terrain, melted bunkers, shattered alien hulls. Then movement. A shape. Humanoid. Upright. Still, the feed cut out. 2 hours later, the relay satellite burst into static. There was no follow-up. The signal ended with a single frame, a man standing amid smoke, wearing broken Terran armor, looking directly into the lens. Back at Central Command, the footage was dismissed as a glitch. Some suggested a ghost image, an echo from corrupted memory files. Others grew nervous. What if it wasn't? Still, no one moved. No action was taken. War was over. Earth was dead. That was the official truth. But there were whispers. Old soldiers from both sides remembered a name: Captain Elias Reyes. Last seen on Vectra 7. Human Special Forces. Tactical genius. Known for outmaneuvering fleets with single squads. They said he vanished after that battle. Assumed dead. But if he survived, if even one Terran operative remained, no one wanted to say what that meant out loud. The truth was, no one understood humans. Not really. They had arrived late to the galactic stage. Barely unified, already militarized. They fought without standard patterns, without predictable formations. They didn't retreat. They didn't negotiate from weakness. And when they lost, they came back harder. The Solari called them illogical. The Kravith called them pathologically stubborn. Some admired them. Others feared them. All were relieved when they disappeared. The message from Vectra 7 spread in quiet circles. Military networks. Intelligence divisions. Denied publicly. Studied privately. In secret, Kravith and Solari both began asking the same question. What if one of them was still alive? What would a lone human do after 50 years? No one knew, but in a shattered underground bunker beneath the crust of Vectra 7, Elias Reyes was already preparing. He had survived the collapse. Carried from the battlefield with 2 shattered legs and a spine broken in 3 places. He rebuilt himself with scavenged augmentations, stolen from Kravith corpses and crashed Solari dropships. He relearned how to walk, how to move, how to kill. 50 years passed in isolation. 50 years studying his enemies, watching peace unfold like a farce. He heard the broadcasts, saw the celebrations, recorded every lie. He kept a log, updated daily. Countless entries, strategic notes, enemy weaknesses, names of those responsible. He wasn't waiting for rescue. He was waiting for the right time. Elias Reyes wasn't interested in peace. Peace had come without justice. Earth wasn't defeated in battle. It was erased, forgotten, buried. The war ended before the war was done. Now he would finish it. Reyes repurposed what tech he had left. Salvaged fusion cores. Forged a warship in secret. No name, no beacon, just black hole plating, Terran-grade thrusters, and weapon systems that hadn't been used in half a century. He designed it for one pilot. Fully manual. No AI. No fail-safes. Because that's what humans were, failures made lethal. The final component was human will. One by one, systems activated. The warship pulsed to life. It didn't announce itself. It simply vanished into deep space, invisible to the sleeping giants of the galaxy. The last Terran soldier was moving again. No fleet followed. No nation backed him. No reinforcements waited in the dark. Just one man, one mission, one truth. The war was not over. It had just begun again. The Solari scout ship that arrived at Vectra, 7 never reported back. 6 days later, a Krava surveillance station on the other side of the quadrant detected the same anomaly. Old Terran signal bands, pulsing in a rhythmic pattern, unmistakably intentional. Within hours, independent data analysts from both species confirmed the same horrifying possibility. The signal wasn't from an automated distress beacon. It was a broadcast, live, human. Panic didn't show up in the news feeds, but it spread fast in military channels. War was supposed to be over. Human extinction was treated as fact. If even one remained, that narrative collapsed. If he had survived alone for 50 years, then he was no ordinary soldier. And if he was broadcasting now, it wasn't for help, it was a message. Captain Elias Reyes wasn't dead. His ship, the Ghostfire, moved silently through dead space. Cloaked, unregistered, undetectable by most modern sensors. Reyes didn't trust AI. He didn't trust algorithms or autopilot systems. Everything was manual, navigation, combat diagnostics. His mind was a processor. His instincts were the code. The ship responded only to him. Inside the command bay, there were no flags, no holographic medals or symbols of a forgotten Earth. Only data, maps, battle plans, enemy movement projections, coordinates of key targets, faces of Krava generals and Solari diplomats responsible for Earth's destruction. He didn't talk much anymore. Words were for people with someone to talk to, but he recorded logs. Brief, clinical, calm. Zarin, 9 holds Kravath archive data. Planetary defense grid minimal. Strike viable. Objective. Extraction of Earth war files. Secondary objective, demonstration. He wasn't interested in conquest. There was nothing left to rule. Earth was gone, but memories weren't. The betrayal wasn't forgotten. The silence wasn't forgiven. Reyes didn't believe in peace that ignored the murdered. He reached Zarin, 9 on day 16. No one saw him coming. The orbital sensors registered only a blip, too fast to lock on. Defense AI tried to track him, but failed. Ghostfire dropped into low orbit and disabled every satellite with pinpoint ion bursts. Not a single kill, just darkness. Krava's security scrambled, but their weapons had grown soft in peacetime. Their fleets were half-trained. Their captains had never fought a Terran. Reyes didn't fire a shot. He didn't have to. He dropped a signal jammer, hacked their mainframe, and broadcast the footage he'd extracted. The galaxy watched in silence. The feed showed classified files, meetings between Solari and Kravath warlords mocking Earth's resistance, video logs of bombardments, orders to sanitize Terran presence without negotiation. One Kravath admiral laughed on camera. They won't surrender? Then we'll make it look like they never existed. The transmission lasted only 10 minutes. Then Ghostfire disappeared into subspace. The damage was done. Within days, Reyes's name spread like a virus. News anchors speculated. Military officials denied everything. Analysts called it human propaganda. But soldiers knew better. They recognized the tactics, the precision, the intent. This wasn't propaganda. It was a reckoning. And it wasn't over. The Solari's Vault 7 held another secret. It contained the only surviving copy of the Terran surrender demand, the document Earth had refused to sign. It was never meant to be seen. Reyes wanted it public. He breached Vault 7 without setting off a single alarm. Solari archivists arrived the next morning to find every security system intact, but the vault empty, and a message scrawled on the wall in Terran script. You never gave us a chance to surrender. You gave us a deadline to die. The file was released across every known data channel an hour later. Now there was no pretending. The galaxy knew the truth. Earth was not lost in war. It was deliberately erased. A clean slate to avoid complications. And the human they thought had died with it was alive, sharp, and moving with surgical purpose. The Dominion and the Hegemony held emergency councils. They blamed each other. They accused independent worlds of aiding Reyes. They deployed listening fleets and intelligence probes to trace his movements. Nothing worked. Reyes never attacked civilians. Never fired unless fired upon. He didn't destroy colonies or harvest resources. He appeared, delivered a blow of truth or precision, then vanished. But every strike unraveled more of the myth. The Kravith called him the Phantom. The Solari called him the Final Error. Smugglers warned each other not to carry Terran gear, just in case. Mercenaries refused contracts near old Earth war zones. People started studying Terran history again. They found stories of impossible battles. Human units holding ground against superior forces for weeks. Pilots flying disabled ships into enemy flagships. Prisoners refusing food rather than speak. They realized it wasn't madness. It was design. Humanity was built differently. Reyes represented that design. Stubbornness as a strategy. Pain as training. Loneliness as clarity. He wasn't broken. He was perfected by loss. Then he spoke. Hijacking a system-wide feed across 3 sectors, he appeared in silhouette, voice calm, controlled. This message is for those who forgot Earth. I am Captain Elias Reyes of the Terran Vanguard. I have no army. I have no home. I have no orders. But I have memory, and I have justice. The war you ended wasn't finished. You closed the book before the last chapter. I'm here to write it. He ended the message with a timestamp. Next target, Solari Command Shipyard, Lorien Belt. You have 1 week. It wasn't a threat. It was a notice. People panicked. Solari fleets deployed instantly. Civilian ships were grounded. The command shipyard was one of the most secure installations in known space. But it didn't matter. Ghostfire didn't approach from front. It tunneled through abandoned asteroid clusters, rerouted an ancient mining tunnel, and emerged in the shipyard's engine bay. The explosion wasn't destructive, it was precise. A localized EMP burst. Every ship went dark. Every system locked down. And when the lights returned, Reyes was gone. But in every mainframe, one message remained. You dismantled your fleets. I rebuilt mine. 1 man, 1 ship, 1 purpose. He had proven his point. The peace they celebrated was fragile. The justice they ignored was returning. And it didn't wear a uniform. It didn't carry a flag. It was cold, silent, focused. It was human, and it was far from finished. The Solari and Kravith could no longer ignore it. 1 man had destabilized the galaxy, still pretending it was at peace. 6 surgical strikes. 0 casualties. 1 objective. Truth. But in every act, Reyes undermined their control. What governments feared most wasn't destruction. It was a collapse of belief. If the war wasn't truly over, if Earth hadn't truly fallen, then everything they built since the treaty was a lie. The Dominion began blacklisting mentions of Reyes. State-controlled networks censored his footage. The Hegemony labeled him a terrorist. But the more they tried to silence the story, the faster it spread. Pirate channels replayed his messages. Dissident factions studied his tactics. Former veterans whispered his name like a ghost returned to finish the job. Then came the first affection. A Kravith captain, Briss Taller, released a classified archive showing early war footage. Earth cities under siege, civilians pleading for help, and Dominion fleets ignoring distressed beacons. He said he couldn't live with the lies anymore. He vanished the same night. The hegemony claimed he committed treason and self-terminated. But Reyes knew better. Taller had reached out first. The ghost fire intercepted his escape shuttle, brought him aboard. Reyes didn't ask for loyalty, just the truth. What did you see? Reyes asked. Briss hesitated. We were ordered to make it look like an accident. No survivors. No records. I thought we were preventing another rebellion. You weren't, Reyes replied. You were erasing a future. That was enough. Others followed. One by one, former officers' texts and low-ranking soldiers came forward. Secrets they had buried resurfaced. Maps of Earth post-bombardment, logs of surviving colonies, intercepted Terran broadcasts. Humanity hadn't died. It had disappeared, driven underground, scattered across debris fields and hollowed-out moons. Reyes wasn't alone. He was the first to return. The galaxy began to fracture. Minor systems pulled away from Dominion authority. Independent colonies stopped responding to fleet requests. Commerce hubs refused to report on the human issue. It wasn't organized rebellion. It was erosion. Fear turned to doubt. Doubt turned to silence. And Reyes kept moving. Next was the Jiro Citadel, a symbol of the post-war order. Neutral ground, trade center, political summit location. Reyes didn't destroy it. He walked into it, dressed in scavenged armor and a cloak of unknown weave. He passed through 6 levels of security. Guards froze. Facial scanners failed. AI recognition systems locked and crashed. He stepped into the central atrium, placed a single item on the floor, a charred Terran child's toy recovered from Luna's ash plains, and said one sentence into the chamber's audio system. Remember who paid for your peace. Then he left. No alarms were triggered. No pursuit followed. No one admitted to seeing him, though millions had. The video was smuggled off station within the hour. Reyes became a movement, not a man, not a soldier, a symbol. The return of what the galaxy tried to forget. Fear didn't come from the damage he caused. It came from knowing he hadn't even started. He hadn't retaliated. He hadn't avenged. He'd only revealed. And revelation was more dangerous than war. That changed at Keshtar Prime. A joint Solari Kravith listening post identified a suspected Terran remnant, an underground settlement. They launched a containment sweep. A sanitized name for orbital strike. They hit it before confirmation. 1 missile, 1 crater. 77 humans were there. Survivors, children, elders. None armed. None escaped. This time, Reyes responded. The ghost fire emerged from subspace above the Kravith shipyard that authorized the strike. It didn't cloak. It didn't hide. It transmitted a single signal. You brought this. Reyes didn't disable this facility. He destroyed it. No warnings. No finesse. He launched 6 kinetic projectiles. No energy signatures. No heat trails. Just raw, physical destruction. The central command tower collapsed. 3 cruisers vaporized. Debris rained for hours. The impact killed 4,600 Kravith personnel. It was Reyes' first strike with fatalities. The galaxy shifted again. He issued no speech, no justification. Just one message, uploaded to every major network. For 77 voices you silenced, I reply. You wanted the last word. This is mine. Silence followed. The hegemony demanded retaliation. The Dominion pushed for new weapons programs. But fear ran too deep. No one knew where Reyes would strike next. No one understood how he moved. Every attempt to predict him failed. He wasn't fighting for conquest. He wasn't fighting for politics. He was fighting because Earth was betrayed, and no apology had ever come. Meanwhile, Reyes expanded his network. He didn't build an army. He found survivors. Cells. Scattered human enclaves hiding for decades. Terraformers, engineers, war orphans turned miners, people who had lived in shadows since the bombs fell. He gave them direction. No speeches, no flags, just coordinates and a promise. We aren't dead. They call themselves the Ashborn, not soldiers, not citizens, just humans with nothing left to lose. They didn't seek revenge, they wanted presence, the right to exist, the right to be remembered. Reyes trained them in silence, taught them what the war had taught him: adaptation, patience, precision. They didn't wear uniforms. They didn't chant. They didn't broadcast. They moved like ghosts. At the edges of known space, Ashborn ships began to appear, rescuing other enclaves, hijacking forgotten Terran satellites, reclaiming wreckage from old battlefields. They never struck first, but if provoked, they answered with clarity. Their tactics bore the mark of Reyes: surgical, untraceable, final. World began to listen. Even non-human factions, long hostile to Earth, started reaching out in secret. They offered information, safe harbor. Some had been brutalized by Dominion or hegemony forces themselves. They saw in Reyes not a terrorist, but proof that power could be challenged by will. Still, Reyes didn't trust them. He wasn't building alliances. He was delivering a message. You didn't finish us. You just left us time. Each act brought the galaxy closer to reckoning. Not a war of empires, a war of truth. One human, carrying the weight of a world, had lit a spark they could no longer contain, and the storm was still forming. The galaxy had a new equation to solve, and none of the old variables applied. It wasn't about fleets anymore, not about alliances or territory. It was about belief. Reyes had rewritten the definition of power, no longer measured in ships or soldiers, but in memory, resilience, and precision. One human had cracked the illusion of peace open like old armor, exposing the rust beneath. The Dominion issued a kill order with a 10 billion credit bounty on his head. It didn't matter. Nobody claimed it. Bounty hunters who tried disappeared. Not killed, just never returned. Their ships found adrift, systems erased, black boxes empty. Reyes wasn't just surviving now. He was erasing threats before they moved. And the Ashborn were no longer hiding. They struck a weapons convoy near Seldara Drift. Didn't destroy it. Commandeered it. Distributed the weapons to human enclaves across 5 sectors. Then they hit a Dominion relay hub, intercepted communications, and leaked them publicly. Dozens of messages revealed plans to suppress growing rebellions with containment purges. Reyes released a rare message: "You learn nothing. I'll teach it again." Next, he moved on the most guarded target yet, Kerbin Spire, built in orbit over what was once Mars. The spire was a monument to Dominion supremacy. It was where the final treaty had been signed, where Earth's ashes were declared forgotten, where every major species had agreed that humans were a regrettable but necessary extinction. Reyes didn't announce his arrival. He simply landed. One man, one ship, one step ahead of every protocol. Security forces flooded the chambers. Automated turrets locked onto his coordinates. Bioscanners confirmed identity. And yet, no one fired. They didn't freeze from fear. They paused from uncertainty. The story said he should be dead. Impossible. A ghost. But now he stood there. Human. Breathing. Real. He walked through the halls of the spire like a surgeon entering an operating room. He reached the treaty chamber and placed a new document on the central table. Not a bomb, not a manifesto, a ledger. It contained every colony lost, every name buried in dust, every intercepted plea for aid, every order that was never answered, each page a record of betrayal. It bore no flag, no crest, just a simple phrase across the top: "We remember." When security finally moved, Reyes was already gone, but the file wasn't. It auto-copied across every system in the spire, then into Dominion archives, then across military nodes, trade hubs, private networks. It wasn't blocked. Couldn't be. It infected like guilt, and it made the galaxy flinch. Some called for surrender, some for extermination, but it was already too late. The Ashborn were in motion. Enclaves long believed extinct lit up with signals. Ships emerged from asteroid fields. Beacons long silent began pulsing again, old Terran code, modified and sharp. Reyes had not built an army. He had woken a species. And they weren't coming to fight for territory. They were coming to remind the galaxy that forgetting humanity was not the same as defeating it. Kravith Prime fell without a battle. The population revolted, not for Reyes, but because they saw what had been hidden, what their leaders had done in the name of peace. The Solari homeworld issued a public apology for their role in Earth's destruction. Hollow words, Reyes thought, but still proof that the myth was cracking. At the center of it all, Ghostfire moved like a thought, never staying still, never striking twice. It became the shadow that haunted every lie told since the war, not because it killed, but because it proved that humans didn't need permission to return. They simply would. And Reyes? He never claimed a throne, never raised a banner. When the Dominion offered a parley under condition of surrender, he sent back one line. We surrendered once, to hope. We won't do it again. That message became doctrine among the Ashborn. Not revenge, not rule, memory, the right to exist without apology. Then came the day of silence. Across 5 sectors, Dominion satellites shut down at the exact same moment. Energy grids stalled. Military networks scrambled. Reyes didn't attack, didn't infiltrate. He just left one line of code running in their systems. Imagine what we could do if we were angry. No ships fell. No lives were lost. But panic spread wider than any missile could reach. That day, 6 neutral worlds revoked trade deals with the Dominion. 2 species declared independence. One Kravith admiral resigned, live on air. The galaxy had reached a turning point, not because it was forced to, but because one man had exposed the truth. They didn't win the war. They buried the aftermath. And now, that aftermath had a voice. Reyes disappeared again after that. The Ashborn grew, not as a government, not as a nation, but as something older. Tribes bound by survival, not command. They rebuilt, in silence, in the wreckage, not seeking domination, just ensuring Earth was never forgotten again. And on some nights, in the deepest voids of space, far from mapped trade routes, captains claimed to spot a black ship moving faster than any known drive system should allow. Cloaked, silent, always just out of sensor range. They say the man inside is watching, not waiting, just watching. Because Reyes never promised war, only memory. And memory never forgets.